welcome to a cold and gloomy Kapiti Coast Aerodrome on the North Island of New Zealand, just north of Wellington. Today I will be flying on New Zealand's most interesting and unique domestic airline, Air Chathams, as we fly to Auckland on a Saab 340. Having spent one of the most fun days I've ever had in New Zealand, spending time with the new friends that I had met the last time I was here, it was time that I had to return to Australia. Unfortunately, there are no direct flights to Australia from where I was staying near Palmerston North. However, I later discovered Air Chathams fly from Kapiti Coast Aerodrome to Auckland, which could get me back to Australia relatively easy. Before continuing, let's briefly go over this airline. Established in 1984, Air Chathams is New Zealand's largest privately owned airline and has cemented its reputation for looking after its people. Based in the stunning Chatham Islands, the airline operates all across New Zealand and up to Norfolk Island, making it the only international route the airline serves. They operate an only prop aircraft fleet including the Saab 340, ATR 72, Cessna 206s, and most notably a single Douglas DC-3. Upon arriving at the airport, so did that of my inbound aircraft, which today is a Saab 340A, registered as Zulu Kilo Charlie India Tango. She was built in Linköping, Sweden in 1989, being initially delivered to Intl Airlines of Australia in August of the same year, before being repainted and moved over to Regional Express when Intl Airlines and Hazelton merged in 2002. She was then accepted by Air Chathams in July of 2023 under her current registration, to where she has been operating ever since. Once my aircraft had pulled in on stand, I turned around and made my way to the terminal, which is located on the eastern side of the airport in a residential area, and is fairly small. One thing I learnt whilst walking to the terminal is that the parking here used to cost money, however now it is completely free, which is awesome. Inside the terminal building is fairly small, consisting of only 3 airlines, with one being the most prominent, that being the green Air Chatham's check-in desk, which is located at the very far end of the room next to the boarding gate. After a simple and easy check-in, not even having to present my ID, I turned around and made my way back to the waiting area, which is just enough for 1 or 2 flights, which conveniently cued the arrival of the second flight of the day, which I won't get too much into as it was a Sounds Air Cessna 208 Caravan bound for Blenheim. Inside the terminal is an awesome whale sculpture. This artwork, which was made by artist Mike Fuller, depicts that of the 7 Kapiti song whales made of bronze. Soon the boarding announcement was made, and I proceeded to the forming queue at the gate. Boarding today commenced at Gate 1, the only gate at the airport. As if it were one final goodbye from Kapiti, the rain began to pour down, soaking all of us in water. Air Chatham's Saab 340s are in an all-economy class layout with 34 seats in a 1-2 configuration, with an additional seat being in row 1 facing backwards and the distinct lack of a 4 abreast seat configuration at the rear. This afternoon I shall be seated in 10 Alpha. The seat has 30 inches of pitch and 18.5 inches of width. There is a standard tray table that folds down but does not extend. In the seat pocket you'll find a safety card, magazine, Chatham Island brochure and an air sickness bag. Above are individual reading lights, air vents and a flight attendant call button. As this aircraft is more than 30 years old, all seats have 3 different latches to hold the tray table up. My particular one had a leather one. Soon the engines fired up for our flight north, 4 minutes ahead of our scheduled departure time.
Chatham service through to Auckland. Today we have a flight time of approximately 15 minutes. My name is
We taxied to runway 34 via Alpha and runway 16. Now please enjoy this unedited takeoff. Once airborne, we continued straight out, climbing north over the ocean for Auckland. Flight time today is 1 hour and 16 minutes, covering a distance of 289 miles or 465 kilometers, cruising at 15,000 and 17,000 feet. Directly after takeoff, we passed over Paraparaumu, which is the town serving the airport we just departed from, and in the distance, shrouded by cloud, was Kapiti Island, which is one of the most important bird sanctuaries in the country. Eventually, the captain switched off the fasten seatbelt sign and the lone cabin crew member was released, indicating the start of the in-flight service, which kicked off with a cup of water in this awesome and unique Air Chatham's cup. This was followed by tea and coffee, served by the most adorable flight attendant I've ever seen. Eventually, the clouds ended up parting and I got a glimpse of the ground. A few minutes later, the source of the mysterious gap in the clouds became evident, that being Mount Taranaki, which sits 2,518 meters above ground. However, the clouds were so high that the mountain was still hidden away, but the wind effects caused by the mountain were still very clearly evident. Eventually, the lovely crew handed out Tim Tams, these two being original and white chocolate. If you've never had Tim Tams before, they are basically chocolate wafers with cream and chocolate surrounding it. Basically a chocolate lover's dream, and an Australian icon. On board the aircraft is a single lavatory located at the rear with everything you would typically expect to find of this aircraft type, except the water and basin has been since decommissioned, with hand sanitizer as a replacement. Just prior to descent, the crew handed out little lollies. This particular one was cherry flavoured, and the lolly itself was slightly larger than the ones served by Air New Zealand. Soon we commenced our descent into Auckland. Throughout the flight, the entire flight up until descent, practically nothing was visible, excluding the blue sky and vast, mashed potato-like clouds, which stretched beyond the horizon on both sides. However, as we approached the area surrounding Auckland, the weather cleared up and we were able to see several different small towns, such as Waiuku. Approaching Auckland from the south can give one of two views: the more scenic ocean and mountains to the east of Auckland, or Auckland itself on the right. On today's occasion, I sat on the left-hand side, which gave me a great look at the Tasman Sea and Waikiki Ranges. Now please enjoy this unedited landing. After landing, we taxied back to the domestic terminal via Alpha 5, Alpha, Bravo 4 to stand 43. We pulled into remote stand 43, 5 minutes behind our scheduled arrival time. With the props finally stopping and the door being opened, I stepped off the aircraft and down onto the apron, complimenting the crew on their superb service, and for the first time this particular flight attendant asked me for feedback and how she could improve. Nothing but 5 stars from me. However, I questioned why a safety briefing was not made. I was told that this was due to the limited amount of time on the ground, which I wasn't overly impressed by from a safety perspective, but from a practical perspective, yeah, I get it. The airport experience was typical of that of a small commuter airport. However, the cafe, which was said to be open, was vacant, with nothing present whatsoever. Flying on an ex-Rex Saab 340A, the only one that used to be in their fleet, felt like a step back in time, as this old and worn plane was clearly showing its age. But don't get me wrong, it was great fun to be on board. Despite the lack of a safety demo, which probably broke many New Zealand safety regulations, the crew were absolutely incredible. She was constantly checking up on everyone, offering more snacks, and even letting one very special young girl serve the snacks and drinks. This is one airline I would highly recommend flying on. Maybe one day I'll get to fly them again, perhaps to Chatham Islands, or maybe to Norfolk Island. Who knows? Only time will tell. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to check out the other videos I have on my YouTube channel, and also, I now have a Discord server. Feel free to join, link at the top of the description. And don't forget to ring that notification bell if you enjoy my content, and if you'd like to see more, I post my videos every Friday at 8 PM Sydney time, and I hope to see you again in the next one. See you later!